All right, everybody, check one, check two, check one, check two. Let me make sure our sound is straight. All right, check one, check two. I hope the sound is working. If not, let me know. Still trying to figure it out here. Had a great show yesterday, so let me speak on that before we go any further. I want to thank everybody who took part in yesterday's show. It was exciting. It was awesome. It was a spiritual lift, for lack of a better word. Just to see people on the show laughing, enjoying themselves. In the comment section, you hope that people are laughing, but when you see it in their face and the smiles, it really gives you a different type of inspiration. So let me start out by telling everybody, thank you. So on the intro, let me, Sister Ree, I want to apologize for the intro. Something is going on, and Preacher Miles has to figure that out. I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know if it's a signal switch from the microphone to the to the other side, because there's two sound sources that are going in. So we'll work it out. That's on me. I run the show, so yes, that is on me. So I take full responsibility, as opposed to the governor of Texas and Ted Cruz and people who take no responsibility. We can talk about that later. So let me tell you what you saw. You weren't able to hear, but let me tell you what you saw. What you saw was a rundown of a story from a couple years ago, where during the church service, I guess the pastor told everybody, that he was looking for donations. He was looking for donations of about $1,000, and he said if you don't have $1,000, then 300, and if you don't have 300, then have ATM machines, and it set up something of a dispute, a riot, and they got the fighting and scrumping in the church. And the guy who I guess led the coup in the church, if you will, explained that while the pastor is relatively wealthy, he has a Rolls Royce, he invited Donald Trump to the church, he has networks, he has mansions. He says the church in and of itself is in the middle of a place that's absolutely decimated by drugs, poverty, single moms, just a lot of difficulty. And he felt like, why are we giving this guy all this money when we have babies that don't eat? Now, I read that. I read into that a little bit, because we have a lot going on, and of course we got a lot going on with the weather. You got stuff going on in Texas. I mean, you have widespread storms. Houston lost most of its power. Wow, Houston lost most of its power. Austin, Texas is still, evidently it's still dark. So, and I asked the question a little bit, and I watched that episode, that clip. Like I said, I was in Detroit, but it was 2 years ago. And the thing that was interesting is about assessing, if you will. How are we assessing those who need? Those who are in need. I don't want the needy is one thing, but it's in need. It's a process. I think people need to understand that there's fluidity in terms of poverty. Poverty, being poor. There's fluidity, and that fluidity has to do with the fact that you're rarely going to find people who are poor who don't work, who don't really put out an effort. They're not lazy people. It's just that the opportunities to lift themselves out of a situation are not as readily apparent as other people. There could be a plethora of reasons. It could be education. It could be just hardships. Choices. Yeah, we always talk about, independent choices and where that leads folks. But, I asked the question, and today's topic is basically, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? I'll give you an example. I joke with Ree about being my dietitian, but Ree and Derek and Juan, would never let me be hungry. Let me say that again. They never let me be hungry. I would never let them be hungry. That has nothing to do with being poor. Poverty has to do with the ability to address need. And I've always felt that poverty comes from the fact that powers that be refuse to address need. There's a scenario, if you will, a prophetic tradition where we understand that being with the needy, being with the poor, is an honor. It's a blessing. It's a trust and it's a mana. And that amana means that when you're close to them, you know what they need. You know what they desire. You know that they're not out someplace in an island, if you will. And if they were out on the island, you know at least where the island is, right? You know at least where the island is. And we're all guilty of something. You need anything? What was it? No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. You need anything? Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. That has to do with pride in some regards, not arrogance. It's pride, and that pride, the pride of those who are poor, the pride of those who don't have, is an amazing, and it's a different sort of pride, because it speaks to belief. It speaks to faith that in my condition, my belief is in my belief in my God, or belief in myself, that I will be able to, in some regards, turn this thing around, at least make it better today than it was yesterday, and then going in tomorrow, and that's the space. I'm coming to you guys from a little bit of a educational background, and I'm gonna tell a story about assessing need. Very short story. But before I get started, let me welcome everybody to the show. You know, I got to welcome everybody. If it's your first time on the show, you should have been here yesterday, because we had a heck of a show yesterday. My brother, my sister. We had potentially one of the best shows that we have outside, right up there with the Mother's Day show. Maybe a little bit. The Mother's Day show was very organic. But we had an amazing show yesterday. And that show was really appreciating people. And I'm going to say that again. One of the issues with dealing with the poor is that we don't appreciate people. So when I ask the question, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my sister's keeper? Yes, I am. And it comes from the fact that if you can recognize your need, then there's really nothing, an excuse that you can give for not being able to understand other people have some of the same needs. The need for compassion, the need for community, the need for food, shelter, respect, dignity. If you want it, it should be very clear that other people want it. Let me give you guys a little example here. Before I do that, let me introduce, if you're on the show for the first time, look, it's been 300 episodes. We're welcoming you, but at this point in time, I got to roll with my people. Simple things, if you're coming on the show, make yourself known. Don't sit out there in La La Land. We had, that show yesterday, we had over 100 viewers yesterday. They should have come into the comment section. But listen, if you're in the comment section, first time people come in the comment section, this is what you do. Give a good word. Give a kind word. Say hello. Introduce yourself. If you're Muslim, give a salam. If you're not Muslim, tell people, hey, glad to meet you, neighbor. That's the way we are. This is a community platform, and this will be the way it moves forward. Win plays the show. Whether we get 1 million viewers or we get just one more viewer, we're going to keep this content going, because I believe this is the way that it's supposed to be. I can't do it like everybody else, and I know I can't do it with like everybody else. You know why? Because not everybody else has a group of people that I have. So if you're a first-time viewer, there's a very eclectic group of people who come on the ShOUT show, and we celebrate them. If you want to be celebrated, get in the comment section. So let me start out right up front. Like I said, now we had some problems. They let me know right away. Sister Ree, always pretty much first on the broadcast, her and Satana. Thank you, Sister Ree, for coming on the show yesterday. That fish was amazing. And that shrimp and grits, you should have told me shrimp and grits, because I almost didn't get ready for work today. This show is about to be about 20 minutes late, but thank you so much. And I want to give a shout out to our consultant producer, Satana. Thank you so much for pulling off the show yesterday. I couldn't have done without you, and we had a blast. We made some people really happy yesterday. My mom and my aunt in their 70s, and they just laughed and enjoyed themselves. And that's what it's about. It's about people feeling good about being part of your process, your platform. All right. I'm going to give a shout out to Sister Ika, who is taking care of her mother-in-law in Indonesia. I don't know, she told me the town. I don't know exactly where. But wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Sister Satana. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And we hope your mother-in-law is doing well. Peace and blessings to your son and daughter. Okay. Brother Derek doing this thing. What's going on, Derek? Good to see you, brother. Derek was on the show yesterday, holding it down, my main man. And here's a comment from the show. Sister Reese says, I enjoyed the show yesterday. It was beautiful and look forward to the future. We're going to do some things. And here's my main man all the way. Can I say that? All the way from Toronto. We got to hang out with Brother Altaf Rashid, brothers and sisters. Altaf, man, we're going to get you married, brother. We're going to get you married. Keep hanging around. You're going to be married, and in 2 years, you're going to have a kid. I'm telling you, we're going to get you ready. But let me get to the crux of the story. And the reason I say that is I actually have to work today, so I can't be long-winded like I like to be. But I'm going to give you a case in point of what I'm talking about. And this happens in the state of Texas. A Texas mayor resigned after posting on Facebook. And it's a town called Colorado City. The manager's name is David Hoover. Well, I'm sorry. Mayor Tim Boyd stepped down Tuesday. This is what he said. And this is people who are obviously, they're suffering the same plight of a lot of people in Texas. No power, no water. And they're stranded. And you're the mayor. And this is what you say out of your mouth. He says, no one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Sink or swim. It's your choice, Boyd wrote in the post on his Facebook page. And he went on to say, the city, the country, along with power providers or any other service owes you nothing. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a blank handout. And to add insult to injury, if you don't have electricity, step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. If you have no water, deal with it. Deal without and think outside of the box to survive and supply water to your family. If you are sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy, is a direct result of your raising. My people, what drives folks to say things like that? And I'm going to tell you what it is. People assess need differently. I've said it before, one of the most expensive businesses in the world is poverty. I'll say it again. One of the most expensive businesses in the world is poverty. Because the cost of survival is massive. It's massive. So to go to the grocery store if you don't have a car, or to go to the grocery store if you don't have ready cash, it's expenses involved with that. To get to a market that has good meats, there's a process for good meats. And if you're not able to access those things in the local area, you'll find that there's what we had a show about food deserts. The fact that grocery stores were not readily available, accessible to people in the city in a lot of cases. And what they do is they settle for not nutrition, but available food. And available food does not really bow to the fact that people have needs for good nutrition, for good health. You have more liquor stores, you have health clinics in the inner city, just so you know. Oh, wait a minute. Altaf has a comment for you. Before you get into the show, does Sister Ree have a food blog or something? Sister Ree, Altaf wants to know before I get into... he's giving you an idea, Sister Ree, a blog for your food, which I will definitely support. Yes, indeed. You have a support. Thank you, Altaf. See, that's what I'm talking about. The readiness to give information. One of the greatest things that hampers the poor is not just access to funds and finances. It's access to information. It's access to information. I had a student when I worked social services, and we really, really worked ourselves to get to a point where he could interview for a job. We bought him a shirt. I told him how to put on his tie, all these things. And it was interesting that when we got to the place, if you will, for the interview, it was closed. And I was really, really upset. Like, why is it closed? And the lady said that we tried to call you to tell you the time had changed, but We didn't really have a phone number that was working. And not having a phone number that was working was the fact that the phone was off. We get it. But just that thing cost him an opportunity because he was ready for a job interview. You see what I'm saying? You know, in the teaching business, one of the problems with education is when we assess needs, we only assess educational needs because that's our fiduciary responsibility to provide education. Not necessarily to provide protection, to provide culture, but it's to provide education. And there's a rubric for providing education. But they don't ask us to assess need outside of educational need, which is your reading levels, your math levels, your auditory levels, things like that, psychological levels. But need. I've rarely ever been to a school that did a food giveaway. All the years I worked in public school, we never had people come to the school to get things, food, stuff like that. Later on in my later years, you know, we had giveaways and stuff like that. But we knew that kids were suffering, and we never really had an opportunity until later where we could tell parents, give this note or this flyer to your mom. Tell her to come get this food from this location. We didn't want them to come to the school to get it because, of course, there was a lot of stigma, but just understanding need. There's an old story about two brothers. JT and I do this story, and I mean, Altaf Reese says she does not have a blog, but she said thank you for the information. And Reed, you should start a blog, absolutely. Information is finance. Understand that, Reed. Information is finance, so you should think about that, and I will help you. Hey, this is my mother saying yesterday's live show was most enjoyable. Oh, thank you so much, Mom. But am I my brother's keeper? The answer is yes. There's a story I gave to JT years ago. I put it on my brother JT. I printed it out. I read it in a book and I typed it out, and I gave it to him. There's a story of brothers, and it was two brothers who had this thing of grain, and they didn't know how to spread the grain. So work with me here. One brother said, "Well, my brother is young. He has children. He should have this grain to feed his kids." So he took his half of the grain and gave it to his brother. The other brother goes, "Well, my brother's young. He's unmarried. He's going to need that grain for a dowry." And he gave it back to him. Now, the point of the matter is the grain never moved because they both understood need. And we don't have that these days. We have a mayor in the middle of a catastrophe that tells people that they're lazy. And there's something with your the way you were raised if you sit at home in the cold with no water. And that the county and the city and the state have no responsibility for you. Nobody that sits around just keeps electricity at their house, last time I checked. Or nobody goes, you know what, I'm going to get a silo of water just in case the system breaks down. And you should, because you pay into the system. But the idea of am I my brother's keeper is something that definitely it fell on me. You know, there's certain things about fellowship. Particularly in communities of color, families of color, let's just go there. There's something about you could be down, but we're not going to let you go all the way down. You hear what I'm saying? We're not going to let you hit rock bottom. You know, outside of things where people want to hit rock bottom, might be drugs or alcoholism or something like that. But my point is, you know, we might be doing bad ourselves, but we will gauge your need. And we will make an educational decision about how much harm we're willing to usher ourselves to. We're more than willing to issue ourselves to harm for our loved ones, for our communities. When I was a teacher, there was a woman named Judy let's just say a woman, teacher named Judy, and she was so nice and so beautiful and so funny until she had to deal with the kids. And when she dealt with the kids, she was increasingly negative. I taught at Clark Street School on 27th of Teutonia, in the middle of the hood of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. All right? And she would say things about the kids that drew. It made me feel funny. Brothers and sisters, it made me feel funny that this woman who was so cool a minute ago now is just chastising the kids. And when school would be over, she would readily just go back to the way she was. And I questioned her about it, and she took offense to it. And she said, what's the problem? You're a teacher, these are not your kids? I said, no, they're not my kids, but they're my responsibilities. They're my responsibility. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Summarily, if I'm my brother's keeper, then that makes me an uncle to his kids. And in that space, brothers and sisters, we have a void, a deficit, if you will. Continue trying to connect or build or recognize the intersectionality of poverty and need, or a needs-based action, whereby we can begin to preempt some of the things that we're seeing going on right now. Now, apologies, guys. The sun is coming through. The sun is changing. So, let me see here. You just have to work with me here. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, JT. How you doing, brother? But my point is, do we have to be reminded that I'm my brother's keeper? Do we have to be reminded that I'm my sister's keeper? You know, I've always believed inherently in the African American community through the process of slavery, not really knowing who your brother and sister were, we had to, again, trust, if you will. And when I say trust, I mean we had to build family with people who we knew were not family, because we're in the same precarious position. And slavery it's a curse, but it's a blessing. I often say that the curse of slavery is not on black people. The curse of slavery is on the people that tried to enslave us. Because every day you have to readily acknowledge your own faults. You have to readily acknowledge your own evils. That this thing that you did was demonic. And the people that you tried to hurt somehow rise. You know, there's a process and a reason why people are poor in the United States. You know, nobody wakes up wanting to be poor, homeless, or destitute. People want to wake up and be successful. Mothers want to wake up and be great mothers. Fathers want to wake up and be great fathers in most cases. And if anything, we want to protect our children. And what we've seen lately, brothers and sisters, for lack of a better word, is just the idea or the clear understanding that there's a divide that's happening. There's a divide that's happening. And we have to readily recognize that divide is happening. And in times like this, like we just had here in Houston and Austin and Mississippi and Louisiana, the call to action can't be a person who's irresponsible saying, if you don't have electricity, step up and come up with a game plan to keep your families warm and safe. Who says that we aren't doing that? If you have no water to deal without and think outside of the box. But here's the thing, we're doing that. If you are sitting home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy, it's a direct result of your raising. I'm sorry, Mayor Tim Boyd. I don't know where you get this idea from, but let me add this. It's reckless. It's insensitive. And it's counterproductive. This is not the way we treat people. Or it's not the way we're supposed to treat people. You know, I saw something at that Capitol insurrection, riot, whatever you call it, that in the absence of what would normally be black people and people of color, I saw folks go after folks that looked like them. I saw white people go after white people. And the answer or the question is a question about compassion. It's a question about mercy. It's a, am I my brother's keeper? And the resounding sound was no. And are we at a point in time, brothers and sisters, whereby we have to look at folks and go, they're not my brother's keeper. And build, for lack of a better word, a community that does value that, and a community that's willing to build on that. You know, we celebrate and we enjoyed yesterday. But that's a quotient of care. That's a quotient of people who generally allow being with each other, even in a virtual situation. We like being with each other. And in that space, brothers and sisters, like, why can't we just do that and enjoy ourselves? And the reason why is because we find ourselves working in these small spaces. And these small spaces of care and compassion are surrounded by spaces of apathy and disconcertedness. So the question today, and I'm going to get out, is simply, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? And you don't have to answer for me. You answer for yourself. You know, maybe we need to assess that. And maybe we need to address who we're talking about and who we're lending ourselves to. Now listen, I'll be back tomorrow. I think I'm going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow because it did strike a chord with me. And I really, really feel like this is something that's a lot deeper and has a lot more roots than I'm actually even giving credit to. I think we need to investigate this and explore this in a bit more of an open forum. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? To me, yes, I am. Hopefully, you guys feel the same. All right? Peace and blessings to you. I will see you tomorrow. We'll be on our regular show tomorrow. Your brother has to go to work. But I appreciate, again, all of you that came on the show yesterday. It was amazing. It was fabulous, as I told Sister Maxine Cade. I said, man, we were just floating after that thing. We just had such a good time. So let me give a quick shout out before we go. Remember, support our sponsor, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Go there, check out the site, get your information. You can sign up and speak to the Harriet Tubman of Financial Freedom, Ms. Maxine B. Cade. Or you could just pick up the phone and call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. Brothers and sisters, that's our show. I appreciate you. And if I didn't tell you yesterday, I'm telling you right now. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Yes, I am. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. God bless. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. Simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Attar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out TarifAttar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.